All right, good morning. We're going to give it one more minute for people to join. All right, hello everyone. My name is Lauren and welcome to our Georgia Rapid DNA webinar hosted by GTH DNA and our Rapid DNA learning platform, Go Rapid DNA. We're very excited about our webinar program today, and we have 5 distinguished speakers that will be covering the advancements of rapid DNA in the United States, and specifically here in Georgia. The format for today's webinar is that we will hear from our 5 presenters whose presentations last approximately 10 minutes each. We will then have approximately 15 minutes to address questions from the audience before the webinar ends at 11:15. And you can submit a question at any time during the webinar, and we'll do our best to address your questions. If we don't have time to address your question during the webinar, we will work with the speakers and panelists to follow up with your questions later this week. And to submit a question, please post it in the chat, which is located at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And your questions will be sent directly to the panel and will not be visible to attendees. All right, so our first speaker is Lisa Hurst. Lisa is the Director of North America for GTH DNA, where she has worked over 25 years on forensic DNA public policy and legislation. Lisa will give us an overview of rapid DNA, a legal review, and federal funding opportunities related specifically to Georgia. Over to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lauren. Yes, so again, I'm Lisa Hurst at GTH DNA. We'll give you a quick overview of what's going on with rapid DNA from a really high-level perspective, and a lot of the speakers to follow will give you a few more details on what's going on and some real life examples. So rapid DNA is quickly changing law enforcement's relationship with DNA. It's really giving investigators timely information into investigations that are happening right now in real time. Rapid DNA processes DNA samples within 90 minutes. It was specifically designed for a non-laboratory, really local law enforcement, end user, non-technical type of person. It is a self-contained, desktop shaped, sized, I should say, instrument, easy to use, uses the same scientific methods as used in crime labs, but again, the difference is it really allows law enforcement to investigate leads and act on those leads within hours rather than weeks, months, and in some cases years, or truly in some cases never, because there are a lot of different crime laboratories around the country who can have some very strict policies on what can even be submitted to crime laboratories for testing. So sometimes if you've got a lower level property crime, it may be really important to your jurisdiction, but it's not going to meet the criteria for submitting it to a crime laboratory, given the lack of resources and limitations that they have there. So again, timely identifications, but importantly as well, timely exonerations or exclusions of potential suspects. So before going a little bit deeper, I just want to outline a few knots around rapid DNA. Rapid is not a replacement for traditional DNA analysis, and that's largely because rapid is not advised for really more complex casework. So anything that's a mixture, that means rape kits. Anything that's a degraded sample, anything that's touch DNA, really small samples, those samples really still need to go straight to your crime laboratory for analysis. Rapid DNA is good for the bigger, more visible crime stain that you would come across. Another knot on rapid is that it's not yet been challenged for admissibility in court. So it's not yet. We haven't even had a challenge yet. We fully expect it will survive the challenge, but law enforcement has largely mitigated around this admissibility issue by using an A swab, B swab method, and you may hear about this more from a few other speakers throughout the next hour. The A swab would be the first swab of that crime scene stain that you come across. That's the one that goes into your evidence. It goes to the crime lab. It's part of the chain of custody. Your B swab would be the same crime stain, but just a second swab. That's the one you can use in the rapid instrument, more of a presumptive lead for your investigation. We do strongly recommend, and what our experience has been in watching these programs around the country, the best programs are coordinated with an accredited crime lab. Now, if your state or local lab does not have the resources or time to support a local law enforcement rapid program, there are a lot of great private labs out there as well that are accredited and would be happy to help you out. But again, work with an accredited crime lab. So some of the use case scenarios, booking stations, we're not going to spend a lot of time on today, primarily because in Georgia, you're not an arrestee DNA state. We would love to change that in Georgia. You can see the map over on the right side of the screen. If there are any legislators, if you know of state legislators who would be interested in helping us change that law, I work with a lot of advocates, have them call me. We'd like to get that changed, but until it's changed, Georgia is not eligible to participate in this end of rapid, which would be collecting those DNA samples at arrest while the suspect is still in custody, getting that 90-minute search immediately of CODIS. So that's big. You're searching 21 million samples within 90 minutes of that arrestee coming into the custody, if it's a felony arrestee. Creates a lot of great opportunities to close loopholes, to make sure you're getting matches while the offender's still in custody. Louisiana was the first state to implement this. You're going to hear a great example of why this has been so successful a little bit later in this presentation today. Florida right now is rolling out 10 local booking station sites throughout the state. So again, we hope that someday Georgia will be able to join in that part of rapid. But in the meantime, what we really see a lot of local law enforcement using rapid for are these direct one-to-one matching, the one-to-one comparison. So you've got a blood stain from a crime scene, you compare it directly to a known individual who might be one of your suspects. It really streamlines investigations, and it allows agencies to make quick identifications, but also, again, quick exclusions of potential suspects. Really great for investigations and for just resolving trust issues in the community to make sure you're going after the right suspects. The next iteration would be local DNA databases. So after that one-to-one match, maybe you have that crime scene profile. Some local agencies are holding on to that profile and dumping it into a local database. Also holding on to those suspect and exoneration profiles, dumping those into a local database. Maybe proactively going after volunteer samples from suspects who come in and out of custody and who are willing to sign a voluntary consent form to participate in this program. These programs at the local level are more typically pursued when the state has not opened its own database for a local search with rapid, which I'll talk about in just a second. But again, these have been very successful. We've got Sheriff Heron on, who started the program in Bensalem, now is with Bucks County. Very successful program there. In fact, these are even now not even just local databases, but regional. So local database, 1 to hundreds, maybe thousands, as you build that database. Comparison then, we also have some state databases that are being used. This is non-CODIS. This is not pushing samples into CODIS. That is not allowed at this time, but there are a lot of states, or a growing number of states, that have made just their state database available for local searches. We've got Arizona, Connecticut, Kentucky, now Missouri coming on statewide. The vast majority of matches are made at the state level. But again, success can be limited by your state database law. Last time I'll point this out, that Georgia does not have an arrestee law. When you look at Georgia's matches compared to your neighboring states that are actually even smaller in size than Georgia, but who do collect from arrestees, they actually have the same number of matches. So really, Georgia should have twice as many matches. Florida has twice as much population as Georgia, but has 5 times as many matches on their database. All of these are arrestee states. Again, we'd be happy. I would be happy to talk to someone about that if you've got a legislator who'd be interested. But comparison to CODIS, this is the big gorilla. This is what everyone really wants access to. Now we're talking about matches of 1 to 20 million in that database. It's actually bigger than 20 million now. Currently, again, the FBI does not have rules in place for evidence that's processed on rapid DNA from local law enforcement to be searched against that national database. The state databases are happening, the local databases are happening, the one-to-one is happening, not a search of CODIS, but it's not a search of CODIS yet. Change is coming in 2025. In the next 18 months, the FBI is working towards opening that door. Your state lab will still be the gatekeeper for this, but strongly recommending state and local agencies to get ready for this. It's coming, and we do have a speaker a little bit later in this hour who'll talk from the FBI RAPID program to talk about this. Also in that forensic family of evidence is human remains. Again, forensic evidence, so it can't be searched against CODIS yet, but when you have an accident or a disaster, most of the time, those are really local matches that are happening anyway. There's been some great examples. The Surfside condo collapse in Florida, was pretty recent. Big use of RAPID there. The Maui fires recently, also using RAPID for identification. It's a great way to try to help reinstill confidence in government after a disaster like this. So that, again, doesn't have to use CODIS to be successful at this point. And lastly, I just want to point out that there is a great federal funding opportunity. One of the next questions we get is, sounds fun, how do I pay for this? Congress has brought back earmarks. In the House, it's called community project funding. In the Senate, it's called congressionally directed spending. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's an earmark. Congress has had a lot of interest in funding specifically rapid DNA programs. These have been very successful. The next funding cycle is in 2025, FY 2025, but that process is really starting now. If anyone is interested in learning more about the federal earmark process, we at GTH would be happy to share some insight as to how that works. We have a website at GoRapidDNA.com where this and a lot of other resources are available to you. You can always reach us from that website as well. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Our next presenter is Larry J. Larry is from Thermo Fisher Scientific, one of the 2 providers of rapid DNA systems. And Larry will provide a technical overview, including a short demonstration on how the rapid DNA systems work. Thanks for joining us, Larry. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It's a pleasure to be here today. Appreciate everybody joining us today. I'm just going to go over a little bit of the technology with respect to one of the rapid instruments that's available currently. With respect to rapid DNA, what is it? You can collect and process a sample in a matter of 90 minutes. Compresses a standard DNA workflow into an easy-to-use process. It can be utilized in a mobile platform, and it can be also used by non-technical operators and users such as myself. So as far as the steps here, you simply insert a swab into the cartridge, and then you take that cartridge and you put it into the top of the instrument there, and it will run for 90 minutes, and you should have your DNA results if there's enough of a sample there, and you'll get hit or no hit confirmation. Now we're having a little bit of a problem here. There we go. Trying to forward. So here are the 2 of the cartridges currently in play. The one on the left is a sample cartridge. It's utilized for reference samples, buccal swabs. For example, Lisa spoke about booking station and people that are under the booking process while under arrest. They take a cheek swab, put it into that chamber there, goes into the instrument, and it'll run for the 90 minutes, hoping you get a good profile. And then on the right-hand side, you have investigative lead, the cartridge that's utilized for investigative leads. It's the Intel cartridge. You can run blood, bone, tissue, hair, clothing, gum from a crime scene. Various types of samples can be run in the Intel cartridge, and hopefully you'll be able to get a good green check mark and a good profile that can be used. So how does it work here? We're just going to play a simple video here. You can see the user logging in with a thumbprint, or they're taking a picture to log in, swabbing the cheek cells, tying the cartridge to the sample that's being run in the rapid instrument. The instrument's telling you that the sample is ready. It pops out. You saw a green check mark there, so that was a good sample. So as far as the technology process and the different types of results, as far as the 90 minutes after the 90-minute workflow completes, we spoke about collecting the sample, processing it in the machine. Now you're going to have 3 results there. You're either going to get a green check mark with the full DNA profile. You're going to get a yellow X where you have a less than full DNA profile, which you'll need to utilize some technical assistance from an expert, preferably your crime lab there, because I know when we're out speaking with interested parties, we try to stress unity of effort with the respective crime lab. And then if you don't have any type of profile generated by the system, you'll get a red X where there's no profile. So just moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about the full profile and the less than full profile. So with respect to that green check mark where you have the full DNA profile, this is the best case scenario because the rapid software is going to allow for match confirmation between the suspect and other casework DNA profiles that are on file or have been saved into in a database. As far as the yellow X there, where you don't have that full complete profile, you're going to need that technical reachback support by a trained DNA analyst or someone from the crime lab in order to confirm that it is a good sample and that it can be utilized going further. So more often than not, when an expert looks at it, it does get controverted over to a full DNA profile, so to speak. And then finally, I just want to touch upon some of the rapid DNA sample collection field reference guide information that's out there right now. You'll see from the left to the right, talks about DNA yield, the swabbing method, and then it drills down into an actual sample that can be encountered out in the field. So on the left there, it talks about consideration of sample type, the size, takes into consideration the environmental exposures. Then in the middle box there, it talks about the bouquet method with the A and B swab method, where the A sample would go to the crime lab, B would be utilized in rapid. Talks about the best practices there. And then you have your last box, which deals with the specific sample that's pulled from a crime scene. It's blood. Try to run that in the Intel cartridge. Talks about how to go about using the swab for that type of sample. And this is just simply put out there as a guidance for operators out in the field and some of the perhaps non-technical users. This is not meant to replace any of the standard operating procedures or protocols that are currently in play in your agency. It's just something to reference, when you're trying to get some of your personnel trained in rapid DNA. That's all I have for you, and thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Our next presenter is Sheriff Fred Herron. Sheriff Herron is currently the Sheriff of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Before being elected sheriff, Fred was an early pioneer of using rapid DNA when he was the police chief of the Bensalem Township. And Sheriff Herron is going to present the application of using rapid DNA when local police departments do not yet have access to state or national databases. Sheriff, the floor is yours.
Okay. All righty. Can you see the screen?
No.
No, we cannot.
All right. Give me 1 second. How about now?
Yep.
Yep, good to go.
All right. So that just goes to show you what when Larry said this is very, and Lisa said this is very, it's very cop proof because I can't even get us to share the screen on PowerPoint. So, but yet I'm able to use the machine. So it's that simple. Thank you everyone for joining. What we're going to talk about today is the actual use and what we were facing here in Pennsylvania, and really we wanted to fight crime, but the current tools we had, sometimes it wasn't working as well as it could be for us. So we started to look elsewhere. All right, it's not moving ahead. Okay, so we are located in the southeastern tip of Pennsylvania. We border the city of Philadelphia. And that poses some unique problems for us. Our county is about 626,000 people residential, about 1.4 million daytime. We border again Philadelphia, which if you're following on the news, has some huge crime issues. Philadelphia, I think right now has the highest homicide rate in the country. In our county, we have about 39 police departments with 900 sworn officers. So we're a commonwealth. So each little municipality has their own little police departments. Some are large, some are small. And what we wanted to look at is utilizing DNA every day. And in Pennsylvania, the booking station is not an option. We're like you. We are not an arresting state. We're a convicted felon state. So we're missing a lot of DNA in the beginning. And we'll talk about how we found, I shouldn't say a workaround, but a legal remedy to this problem and utilizing the rapid instrument. We look at crime scene to suspect. That's really what we're going to talk about today. The casework against the state offenders database does not work for us right now because the state crime lab would not create a separate database outside of CODIS. So what we're hearing is in early of 2025, the FBI might approve Pennsylvania, so we'll be able to join if the state lab allows to do that. Again, we're looking at the local reference sample, and we choose to use this because we don't have access to our criminal database at this point, only for convicted felons. So in 2010, we began the first non-rapid local database, and in March of 17, we went online with Rapid. Rapid came into existence for us, for civilian law enforcement, and as Lauren has said, we became the first police department in the United States to utilize Rapid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The neighboring county came online September of 27, and in February of 21, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we started a regional database partnering with our brothers and sisters in Philadelphia, and we're seeing some amazing results with that right now. The focus of the program was really, thank God, we don't have a huge whodunit homicide problem or a huge whodunit sexual assault. Most of those two crimes are knowns, but we do have a huge property crime issue. And that's really what we wanted to tackle. What we didn't think we were going to see some great results was that on guns and narcotics violations, and we are seeing some amazing results. This is not we have a hit, you got a green check, and you go kick down a door and you lock somebody up. This is an investigative tool. It's just another thing you could use to get somebody in to interview. And as you know, a lot of these criminals, a lot of folks, once they're caught and you tell them you have their DNA, they wind up confessing to these crimes. I can't even think of 3 that have gone to trial. I don't think we've had 2 go to trial. And that's in 10 years and in 17, almost 6 years for rapid. So this is not something that you're facing a lot of trials with. The officers and investigators play the biggest role. You still need the old-fashioned police work. You need the cops to be able to collect the DNA, and you need the officers to be able to, for us in Pennsylvania, get consent from an individual to give up their DNA. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few seconds. All our detectives and all our supervisors are trained in utilizing the rapid machine. The patrol officers right now are not trained in the rapid machine. It's still, even though it's 6 years here, it's still something new and people are still getting used to. So right now, I don't have all the cops touching it. They do collect the DNA and they do collect the DNA from the suspects, but they're not physically using the rapid machine. They probably could. It's just not something we've taken it to that level at that point. We're getting about 95% of DNA is being recovered in all our reported crimes. We take DNA from every crime scene possible, and not only for a crime prevention and an apprehension point of view, but it's also a great public service tool. The people cannot believe that we're actually taking DNA because somebody broke into their car, and now we even have somebody in custody. So this is not something they watch the same TV shows that we see, and it's only homicides and sexual assaults. They don't realize that a theft from vehicle that we're actually taking DNA from people. So it's pretty amazing. Our collection protocols, judicial orders, court orders, or consent. And I can tell you that most of it is with consent. You can ask people for their DNA. We have a very hefty or very in-tuned consent form. They swab their own mouth. It's on video. We read them their consent form. They read it themselves and they sign it. We had one suppression hearing on this and we prevailed. The judge said, wait a minute, you signed it. It's on video. You did your own mouth. The cops read it to you and you read it yourself. Suppression is denied. So this is pretty neat stuff. And again, we have in the high 90s of people giving us their DNA. You might be like, well, why? That's a great question. I don't have the exact answer why, but why does someone give us permission to search their car when they got 7 kilos in the trunk? I don't know. But until 9 people in Washington tells us to stop doing it, we're going to keep doing it. We also got the DA's office, so your prosecutor's office, your state attorney general, whoever you deal with, we got them on board right from the beginning. We wanted to make sure that they knew what we were doing, that they approved this, that they were involved in the policy writing. They wrote the consent form. The consent form changes. The DA constantly is changing and upgrading it to make it more, to give people more opportunities to bail out. We don't want to trick people. We don't want to take it surreptitiously. We don't want to coerce people. We want people to know what they're doing. Evidence collection, evidence triage, training, and more training. I can't stress that enough. You can't do this. This is not one and done out the door. We constantly have updated training. If we see officers are having problems where they're not getting the green checks, we're going back and retraining them. Why is the same guy or gal not getting DNA on the samples? Like Pennsylvania, as I said, Georgia is not able to search the state database for convicted offenders. Therefore, what I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to show you the reference samples versus just one-on-one comparisons to crime scenes, which I think we see some amazing results. Just going to give you a few. We literally have hundreds of these examples, but this one was a multiple vehicle theft investigation with a robbery. In a 6-month period, we suffered an influx of vehicle thefts like everybody else is seeing right now in the country. But on this one particular case, this elderly victim was robbed at knife point. A suspect was developed. You still use old-fashioned police work sometimes. And a search warrant was developed. He did not give up his DNA voluntarily, so we did the old-fashioned way. We got a search warrant for his DNA. The DNA was entered into the rapid instrument and resulted in numerous hits. We cleared 6 stolen vehicles and an armed robbery, thanks to DNA. Locking up people is not the only important thing that we do in our job. It's also to make sure that innocent people don't go to jail. A lot of times, we joke there are no innocent people in jail. There are innocent people sometimes in jail. This particular case is extremely interesting because without DNA, this guy would still be in jail. He was a known sex offender. He was in the area. He was seen in the area. She positively identifies her. This woman comes off to be very credible. It's an elderly woman, and she says this man came into her apartment and raped her. All the evidence that we had seemed to be pretty good. We take him into custody. We send him to jail. He's like, I did not do it. I did not do it. I did not do it. We wound up running DNA through the rapid machine. Guess what? His DNA, he did not do it. She had some DNA on a coffee cup there and semen from the victim, and it did not match. We withdrew the charges. She then went on to identify or point the fingers at two other people. We interviewed them, ran DNA, it wasn't them. By the fourth person that she accused, the DA had kind of had enough. We didn't charge anybody. So then we found out that first victim, she had some mental health issues that her family just decided not to tell us about during the interview process. That would have been helpful from day one, but that didn't happen. Then in I think it was July of 17. Now remember, we just got this instrument March of 17. It's brand new. We're the first police department in the nation to utilize this on a 24/7 basis. We had a quadruple homicide. 4 boys were taken off the streets, lured by another young man that lived in our municipality. He lured them and took them to his family's farm in our county, but probably about 30 minutes away from our municipality. There, making a long story short, he winds up killing the 4 boys. 3 of the boys were buried in one grave, and 1 boy was buried about a half mile away on the same farm in another grave. So we start to find some blood stains. We take the blood stains originally. Remember, the instrument's only 3 months old, 4 months old. We kind of have a suspect, but we're not nearly making an arrest here yet. No confessions, nothing. It's an active investigation. So we drive the blood down to our lab that we use in Norton, Virginia. We get an identification we get a full male profile. We then start to find blood on various items in the barn. And that leads us, we throw that in the rapid machine. That leads us to the boys. We wind up finding the bodies, 3 of them in a shallow grave. And we get their toothbrushes and we run that through rapid to start identifying. These boys were set on fire. Their faces were beaten. They were shot. They were beaten with a shovel. So they were not recognizable at first. Dental work would have taken a little bit of time, and we're still missing 1 boy. So how would you like to be the parent that we just don't know? We have 3 boys. We just can't tell you who's who. So we run this with toothbrushes. We get the 3 boys. The DA works out a deal. He gives us a location a half mile away of the 4th boy. We take the death penalty off the case. He's never getting out of jail. This guy, but it was worth it to find that 4th boy because we might not have ever found him. So I think that is extremely valuable. Then we decided to partner with Philadelphia in 21, right towards the end of COVID. This project started before COVID, then it got kind of put on hold. But we're now matching with an outside database, Philadelphia's Lotus. So their local database. So our swabs, our bad guys that we're locking up are heading to Philadelphia crime scenes. And we're not talking about, Philadelphia's not interested right now in burglaries. They got their hands full with homicides. But some of the cases that we're getting, people that are wanted for different crimes in our county that we're swabbing and putting into the rapid machine are heading to Philadelphia homicides or crime scenes at homicides, I should say. So this is amazing stuff. In the next couple of years, we're going to see, as this project expands, you're going to see amazing results with that. Some program statistics right now, we've got about 56,000 in our database. It's almost half and half reference versus evidence sample, over 10,000 plus hits, 1,700 cross agencies hits, and we're well over 1,000 rapid leads at this point. Our regional database is well over 33 cases, but I use 33 cases. I'm not going to go into them today, but I talk about 33 specific cases, but it's well over that at this point. And 26 elimination cases, which I think is pretty incredible. That's 26 people that we've used rapid to eliminate and knock them out of being a suspect. In that one particular case, the guy was already in custody and in jail. We got him out of jail. Again, narcotics, property crime, violent crime, these are the things we're using every single day now. And we're about ready to get 2 more instruments. Some of the trends that we've seen now, 22 and 23, obviously you all are probably in the same position we are. We've got a crime surge, but generally prior to that, we've seen a 42% reduction in burglary in Bensalem Township and a 25% reduction in Bucks County. The national average at that point was 4.5 to 6.5% reduction, and people were like, well, crime's down. Yeah, 4.5. I'll take 42% over 4.5 any day of the week. And that was it in a nutshell. This presentation sometimes goes about an hour and a half, and I got it down to about 10 minutes. So I appreciate it, and I'll be here for questions at the end.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Heron. We now will hear from Major Todd Morris. Major Morris is with the East Baton Rouge, Louisiana Sheriff's Office, where he serves as the Chief of Crimes Against Persons and Special Operations. Major Morris led the effort to have his department become the first in the country to go live with collecting DNA at the booking stations with Rapid DNA. In addition to giving us a briefing of his application, Major Morris will explain how they are planning to test crime scene DNA on Rapid DNA and compare the results to the state-only database of convicted offenders. Over to you, Major Morris.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm trying to get my PowerPoint up here. I'm like Fred. I'm a little bit slower than Fred because I'm old and been around. Well, anyway, as I'm working this, my apologies. This is some of the coolest technology that I've been involved with in my whole career, and I've been doing this a long time. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about it. I'm not sure why. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Fine.
we can see your screen.
Okay.
If you pull up the PowerPoint, we can currently see the webinar screen. But if you pull up the PowerPoint.
Well, I'm sorry here.
There we go. And then just into slideshow. Perfect.
Okay. My apologies. I'm a little slow. Just real quick, I'm going to talk to you real briefly because I know you're not a arrested collectible state, but the power of having a collection of DNA on arrest. And for once, I can say, Louisiana, is first in something in the country in our collection of DNA. We've been doing that for over 20 years now up on arrest for all felonies and certain misdemeanors. And that's a powerful tool. And I can't talk enough about the DNA workflow and being embedded into your computerized criminal history that our Louisiana State Police maintains, and having all that data connecting to our APHIS live scan system. We started participating with the FBI and Louisiana State Police Crime Lab on the Rapid DNA booking station implementation with Doug Harris and FBI back in 2019. Saw the benefits of that, being able to run a person who is not in our database and arrest on a collectible offense and run that DNA at the time of booking and generate a profile that would run against the Indus and Estes databases within 90 minutes, and then the next auto search and try to generate a hit. In Louisiana, all of our APHIS booking facilities utilize the IDEMIA APHIS live scan system, which is very beneficial. We're all on the same system. It made it easy for the technical side to be able to connect every booking facility in Louisiana because they're utilizing the same APHIS live scan system. When you talk about our local database and our Estes, we have 460 arrestee DNA profiles in there that are searching, a total of 700 when you count evidence. And then when you look at Indus with about 22 million DNA profiles that we're able to search at the time of booking. I can't talk enough about partnerships. If you don't have a partnership with your crime lab, we've been partners for many, many years. I have 2 DNA analysts through an MOU that are signed to the State Police Crime Lab that work probably 70% of our cases and 30% of our other jurisdictions to help them out. We have a regional violent crimes unit that I commanded for 8 years, and the partnerships that we have with that is unbelievable. And you've heard him you've heard Larry speak, and Fred. It's really that simple. This is police friendly. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Very simple to operate. I've trained numerous personnel. If Fred and I can do it, everybody can do that. But they have this technology and generate a profile in 90 minutes is unbelievable. This is one of our deputies in our booking facility running a buccal swab on a new arrestee. We went from collecting DNA upon arrest, send it to the crime lab, and waiting 30, 60, 90 days before the profile is generated and uploaded into Estes, to having that profile generated and uploaded within 90 minutes and searching our database, which is really huge to think that we can have a profile in 90 minutes while that person is still in custody in our booking facility before he's ever bonded out to see if he hits to a crime. And we'll talk about a few crimes here that I have listed here, and some of these ones are major offenses that we had a rapid DNA hit from a rapid hit instrument to a new arrestee who had not been arrested and his DNA profile was not on file yet. And we'll talk about the very first case. It's just a coincidence that we're talking to our Georgia friends. Our very first hit 1 month after we received authority to operate by the FBI and being the first in the country, it was kind of an exciting moment for Doug Harris and FBI, us, Louisiana State Police Crime Lab, to be able to utilize this technology as the first agency in the country operating on the FBI authority at the time of booking. We went live August 1st, and we're all thinking, okay, how long is it going to take to get our first rapid hit? It just so happened on August the 22nd, I had a conversation with Phil Simmers, and who was contacting with the lab and our CG people. Hey, we're going to do a test, a UDN, an unsolicited DNA messaging that comes through our inlets when we were to get a hit that notifies us that a person's DNA was collected, it's ran through the rapid instrument at booking, and it hit to a profile. I get a call from Phil on the 22nd, and first get a call from our CIU, says, hey, we just got a rapid hit. I said, yeah, that's a test hit. Don't worry about that. And really, like 20 minutes later, Phil calls me, said, you're not going to believe this, we got a hit. I said, no, it's just a test hit. They called me, and he said, no, we got a hit. And I said, man, this is unbelievable. And it hit to a case out of Georgia. It was to a fabulous Cordray. She was arrested here in East Baton Rouge Parish for illegal possession of stolen things. She was in possession of a stolen vehicle. She was booked in our facility, and when she connected to CGIS, she had not had a criminal history in Louisiana, and so it was a collectible offense which she was arrested for, which allowed our booking personnel to collect two traditional DNA buccal swabs that goes to the lab, and then collect a third one for the rapid hit instrument. It ran the indus search with no hit, but then when it did the auto search on the non-major 4 categories, which it immediately searched, which is homicide, sexual assaults, terrorism, and kidnapping, those search immediately. Then it runs the indus auto search, and it hit to a June 9th, 2020, my apologies for that, armed robbery and carjacking investigation that was worked by the Atlanta PD. There was a DNA profile obtained from a drink can that was located in the stolen vehicle and processed by Atlanta PD. We made the contact. I reached out to Fulton County District Attorney's Office and the Atlanta Police Department and said, hey, I've got an investigative lead for you guys. And they said, what are you talking about? How did that work? And so they were astonished that we had arrested this individual from Georgia, booked her on an offense here, collected her DNA, and ran it at the time of booking, which hit to their 2020 armed robbery and carjacking as investigative lead. I provided them the information about that. They did their due diligence, did a photographic lineup, obtained an arrest warrant for this individual, and was able to arrest her and charge her with their crime. But that just goes to shows the power of rapid DNA at the time of booking, as well as the other crimes that were listed there. There have been major crimes. I really want to talk about, how it will help for investigative leads, because we have been working on this project jointly with the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab. We're entering the next phase of that. And one reason we looked at that, like a lot of crime labs across the country and everyone else, there's a backlog, not being able to process your cases. As Fred mentioned, not being able to even process property crimes. They're focused on violent crimes, because we had a huge violent crime increase in 2020 and 2021 in non-fatal shootings and our homicides. So learn about some earmarked funds that our Congressman Graves' office was willing to try to secure for us. And so I pitched the idea to my sheriff and reached out to the State Police Crime Lab and their colonel and said, hey, I would like to try to apply and get some federal earmarked funds from the Byrne grant and try to implement rapid DNA for investigative leads through a pilot project with Louisiana State Police Crime Lab. And so I present all the information. Very fortunate Congressman Graves pushed that through and secured us $647,000 of earmarked funds specifically for rapid DNA technology. I have been using that funds. I have purchased several instruments. I have 2 rapid hit instruments at Louisiana State Police Crime Lab now that we're fixing to start our pilot project as it relates to investigative leads. I reached out to Senator White. He's our local senator here in Baton Rouge. He was the chair of the Appropriations Committee. Talked to him about this technology and what we're going to utilize it for, and he secured state funding through our Louisiana legislature for the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office in our 2022 and 23 fiscal year for $500,000, and again for 2023 and 2024 for $500,000. They recognize the benefit of how this is going to really help us with our backlog, being able to process DNA evidence within 90 minutes and hopefully generate a profile as an investigative lead to help close this gap much quicker, identify a potential suspect, or eliminate a suspect, as Fred has mentioned, and make sure where the investigation is going in the right direction. And really need to look at private funds too. We have several organizations that are very law enforcement friendly here in Baton Rouge, and I had reached out to BRAFIS, or Baton Rouge Area Foundation, and met with those individuals back last year and talked to them about this technology. They said, if you need more funding, we will provide funding for you. How much funding will you need? Because they bought into the benefits of rapid DNA, helping get closure for our victims, identify a suspect, bring closure to our victims much more quickly, and once again, drive those numbers down for our community and help out law enforcement. But I promise you, you have business leaders, you have organizations in Georgia that you reach out and talk to them about this technology. They will come up with private funds to help you do that, because they were very excited here about that. And that is a true benefit to the community to be able to solve these crimes much quicker by generating a DNA profile in 90 minutes from a good crime scene evidence swab that Fred mentioned about. Of course, the benefits is real-time processing of crime scene evidence. We have our Estes here. We changed our legislative authority to allow the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab to make a copy image of our Estes, our state DNA index system, which has over 700,000 profiles in it. Fred's going to talk about being CODIS eligible, and that's going to come online here in 2025. But we want to be able to mirror that, put that information on a small ponds IT database until it's CODIS eligible, and then we'll run it separately on our small ponds IT database, our copy of our Estes, which has over 700,000 profiles in it. So we really see the benefits of that for investigative lead projects that we're getting ready to start at the crime lab here in the next month or so as we go through the validation process and move forward with that. Also, we have, reach back support that you need from your crime lab. And of course, we have 2 DNA analysts that are employees of ours that are housed at the crime lab, which makes reach back support much more easier when you may get a mixture of something that needs more a DNA analyst to look at and verify that. And we talked about, Fred also, and it's been mentioned, we'll be taking 2 samples, an A swab, which will go to the crime lab for traditional DNA funding, and the B swab, which would go into the instrument as we go through our validation process. The future vision, our future vision is really, I think it's just a tremendous tool that's going to help us in the field as we progress. In 2020, we were designing a new crime scene, mobile crime scene lab. And my captain over crime scene, I said, Kenny, I want to make sure we have enough countertop space in our lab, because eventually I hope to have a rapid DNA instrument in our mobile crime scene lab. And he looked at me and said, what are you talking about? I said, look, I'm serving this committee, and this is the future. We'll be able to generate a profile on crime scene evidence, good single source evidence, be able to run that on location while we're at a crime lab is where I hope this goes in the next few years as this continues to develop and we work out the logistics with our crime lab, how we're utilizing crime scene evidence, good single source evidence to help us generate a lead for our crime scene program. And really, we just have to remember we do this for our victims of our crimes, and that's the most important thing, how we can bring closure, how we can get this individual off the streets, how he does not continue to repeat and continue to commit criminal acts, and identify him using this rapid DNA technology with a profile that's generated for us as an investigative lead within 90 minutes. Awesome technology. I'll have my information, anything that we can do here, I can help you policy and procedure wise that are written for investigative leads, and our booking station. I know it's not applicable to you, but be glad to share anything I can with you. And so thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. And I wish you luck as you reach out and utilize this new technology. It's really some awesome technology. It really changes the way that we look and process crime scenes. And as a tool, it's just another tool to help us in our investigative process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Major Morris. Our final presenter today is Doug Harris, who currently serves as the FBI Rapid DNA Implementation Advisor. And before leading the Rapid DNA effort for the FBI laboratory, Doug served as the FBI's custodian for National DNA Index Systems and served as a liaison to all CODIS programs throughout the country. Doug will give us an update on the FBI's path for forensic DNA use in CODIS. We're excited to have you with us today, Doug. Over to you. All right, well, that wraps up our webinar for today. Thank you to all of our presenters and everyone who joined us. We hope this information is helpful as you consider the issues related to advancing rapid DNA in your jurisdiction. Please feel free to reach out to GTH DNA if you have any questions. We also encourage you to visit www.gorapiddna.com, where you can find additional rapid DNA policy and program information and updates. We are also planning to post today's webinar and the presentations on the Go Rapid DNA website if you would like to review it or share it with anyone. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.